I'm Ellie Cohanim, welcoming you to join me at American Sephardi Federation's opening night of their 18th annual Sephardic Jewish Film Festival, taking place in New York's Center for Jewish History. Join me for some fabulous conversations, an interesting program including a live performance by Enrico Macias, the presentation of the Pomegranate Awards, and so much more.
Good evening. My name is Jason Guberman, and I am the new Executive Director of the American Sephardi Federation. We welcome you to the opening night of our film festival. The film festival is a poignant expression of all the values and the mission that the ASF represents. We connect, collect, and celebrate the rich mosaic culture of Sephardim. Now, when I say Sephardim, I'm not sure what's going through everyone's head. There's a beautiful, complex diversity to the Sephardi world. But ultimately, whether we're talking about the Shrine of Esther, which is in Hamadan, Iran, or sites that are in Morocco or in Poland, we have one Jewish history. And it's wonderful to welcome you to the Center for Jewish History, where the totality of the Jewish world is represented in our collections dating back over 500 years.
We have two winners, two people that we're honoring this evening, the poet Erez Bitton and the wonderful filmmaker Kamel Ashkar. We'll begin with Erez Bitton. Erez Bitton is a pioneering and award-winning Israeli poet of North African heritage. Bitton immigrated to Israel with his family in 1948, but was blinded by a stray hand grenade at the age of 10. His 5 books of poetry, including his most recent work, Blindfolded Landscapes, explore both his North African Jewish heritage and his blindness with exceptional courage, openness, and honesty. Recently awarded with the Yehuda Amichai Poetry Prize and the Bialik Lifetime Achievement Award, Bitton is critically celebrated as the founding father of a new and significant tradition in the history of modern Hebrew poetry, Israeli Sephardic poetry.
והשיר השני, שיר לאהרון בן חמו שנפל.
And still, Aaron ben Hamu reciting his own Akedah year after year in the small synagogue of Mother Rachel in the town of Lod. Aaron ben Hamu reciting out loud his own sacrifice with the emotion of facing the congregation. And they try to cue him to allow others to read Akedah Yitzhak during the days of awe. But he, again and again, insists on reciting his own Akedah, Aaron ben Hamu, who fell in the Six-Day War.
עקדת יצחק, אולי תן למישהו אחר לקרוא, אבל אהרון בן חמו מתעקש וממשיך לקרוא שנה בשנה את העקידה של עצמו. אהרון בן חמו שנפל במלחמת ששת הימים.
The Middle East is made up of a plurality of identities. There are Kurds, Druze, Yazidis, Arabs, Copts, Jews, Amazigh. Amazigh are the natives of North Africa. They are now oppressed throughout much of North Africa, especially in Algeria and Libya, not so much in Morocco. Actually, in Morocco now, according to the new Moroccan constitution, the Berber language is recognized as a national language, right? But this shows that even though the Middle East, there's a plurality of identities, the Middle East is very far from being a pluralistic place. I correct people when they refer to the Middle East as the Arab world. I mean, yes, there are Arabs, but there are also Jews and Amazigh and Kurds and Druze. And I would encourage everyone here also, when you hear that part of the world referred to as the Arab world, to say, wait a second, there's a plurality of identities. And why is this important? Because what Kamal is showing through his film, his work and his life, he's been 20 times to Israel, is a vision of the Middle East as it should be, as we hope it one day will be. A Middle East where convivencia, an open dialogue, and real cultural exchange becomes a reality. That's That's the world that doesn't exist now, but it does in Kamal's work. So please join me in congratulating Kamel Ashkar.
I'm here with Kamel Ashkar, who is receiving the Pomegranate Award tonight at ASF's gala. Kamal, first of all, we'd like to know, where are you from?
I'm from Morocco. I was born in Morocco, in Tinrir. It is a town in the south of Morocco, in the mountain of Atlas. But I grew up in France. I am citizen, French and Moroccan citizen also. Now I'm living between Paris and Marrakesh.
That's fabulous. It sounds like a very exotic life. Kamal, I understand tonight you're receiving the Pomegranate Award for your filmmaking. So can you tell us a little bit about your most famous film and a little bit about what it was?
Yes, I am very happy and excited to receive this Pomegranate Award in this festival because 3 years ago I screened my movie here. It was a premiere. My movie, it was about coexistence between Jews and Muslims in my hometown. And it's about memories, plural memories, plural identities. I wanted to show just this good coexistence between Jews and Muslims in my hometown. It's about exile also, about love of land, love of neighbors, you know. It's about other also. And my movie, the title is Tinrir, Jerusalem, Echoes from the Mela. It's a movie, it's a road movie between Morocco and Israel about these memories.
So Kamal, when you say that your film is about coexistence between Jews and Muslims in Morocco, that's not something that we see a lot of in the news these days. Is that still the way it is, and is that the way you imagine the future will be for Jews in Morocco and in Muslim countries?
Yes, we have to build something new now, you know. We know the problem between, for example, with the conflict between Palestinian and Israelian. But we have the new generation, Muslim. I am Berber, I am French, I am Moroccan also. I have all these identities inside me. And I want to build something new by my movies, for example. Now I'm preparing a new movie about the third generation in Israel, musician Israeli from Morocco, you know. And this musician wants to come back to meet another artist in Morocco, Muslim artist. And I think it's very important to make something new, to build the bridge between us, specifically now.
I'm here with Mr. David Dangor, who is the chairman of the board of the American Sephardi Federation. Mr. Dangor, you know, first of all, I have to tell you it's an honor to have you with us on JBS. And before we talk a little bit about ASF, I'd love to talk about you, because I think our audience would find your story fascinating. So you're an ambassador to the country of Sweden. Tell us a little bit about how that happened in your own family and heritage.
Okay. My father's family came from Baghdad, and my mother's family from Vienna. I was born in Tehran, and I grew up in Sweden. And I'm a businessman, and amongst other things, I also had the fortune to be asked and accepted to be Honorary Consul General for Sweden here in New York.
All right, so the ambassador said I'm not allowed to call him an ambassador, but he is indeed an ambassador. And so if you could tell us a little bit about the mission of ASF and what it is that, I know you put your heart and soul into this organization, what is it that you hope to accomplish?
You know, it's incredibly important that Sephardic Jewish history, whether it's the old Sephardim from the Iberian Peninsula or whether it is the Jews from North Africa and the Middle East and Asia, it's very important that our histories get remembered and celebrated and get integrated into the narrative of the Jewish experience as a whole. I have to say I'm delighted because now as the population relationships in Israel is changing, very few people know that over 50% of Israel's population today actually originates from the Arab world. And they were all refugees at one point in time after Israel's creation. And with this change of dynamics in the population, Sephardic music and Sephardic cooking is becoming more and more important and more popular. But our job here is the hard stuff, It's the history, it's the archives, the library, and tonight, to celebrate Enrico Macias, something very special, because there's probably no artist, Jewish artist in the world, that did more to put Jews and the Jewish destiny from the Arab world on the map and on people's minds than Enrico Macias.
Mr. Dangor, for our audience who doesn't know, last year ASF honored Enrico Macias, is that correct?
That's correct, and he was so thrilled, and he fell in love with the American Sephardi Federation and what we do, that when I took him to the airport last year, he said, David, if you want me, I'll come back next year.
Please accept this trophy on the behalf of the American Sephardi Federation as one more symbol of your life achievements. Welcome back and see you next year.
Now it's a tradition. I want to tell you that I am very proud of this because it's not only a trophy, it's a symbol of eternity for our children, for our grandchildren, for the story of all the Jewish people, all. Sephardic, of course, because it's my family, and also the Ashkenaz, because we have now to unite our energies together, all Jews together, because our enemies are very strong, and we have to be stronger than them.
I am honored and thrilled to have with me noted, famous, worldwide musician, someone who I personally love and have heard since my childhood, Enrico Macias, here with us on JBS. Enrico, how does it feel when there are women all over the world who say, oh my God, it's Enrico Macias?
I feel good because I am very happy to be known like this, to be loved. And if I am here tonight, because last year it was so a beautiful night. And when I received the invitation by the president, David Dangor, I was so happy to come back. I had many things to do in Paris. I canceled all to come to New York.
Oh my gosh, well, we're so glad that you canceled everything to come to New York. So Enrico, many people have followed your career, and they say that you are the first person to bring Sephardi Jews to the world stage. When did that happen, and how did that make you feel at that moment when you realized, yes, you were representing Sephardi Jews to the entire world?
Because I suffered a lot in Algeria. I lost my father-in-law. He was also my master. He was a big musician. I married his daughter, and now my wife is dead. And I suffered a lot to be a Jew, because when they killed my father-in-law, I was so sad, so angry against all the people making the terror against the Jews in the world. And I have two fights. First, I want to unite all the people, no violence. And secondly, I want to protect my family before. And I want all my family united, because if we are not united, we give the pretext of our enemies to hurt us. And if we are united, all Sephardim and also Ashkenazim, together against all our enemies. And after, we will see the light. We will see the light.
Enrico, you live in France right now.
Yes, I live in France, yes.
We've been hearing in the news a lot of terrible things about what's happening to the Jews in France. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think the Jews are safe in France? Is there a future for Jewry in France?
My dream is to live France to go to live in Israel. I decided to make my Aliyah. But also I decided to stay, to not to leave my brothers. I don't want they think I go to Israel and I leave all the people that cannot go to Israel. But my fight also is to say, to tell to these people, if you can go now, not wait the last moment to go, but my duty is to stay with them until the last moment.
Enrico Macias, it's my honor and our pleasure to have you with us on JBS. Thank you so much, and we're looking forward to hearing you singing soon tonight.
Yes, this is important to sing also, and you are beautiful.
Oh, guitare, guitare, ma guitare, ouvre-moi bien ton cœur. Chante, chante, guitare, sous mes doigts, et chante le bonheur. Si j'ai mis dans ton cœur andalou trop de soupirs à ton goût, chasse au loin les sangles superflues, on n'en parle jamais plus.
I'm here with Sarah Nujumi, who's the artistic director of ASF's Film Festival. Sarah, I understand the Film Festival is the biggest annual event of the ASF, is that correct?
Apparently so. It's been going on for 17 years, so this is actually my first year at the festival.
Okay, so artistic director, what can we expect? What's new? What's exciting?
Well, I think what you can expect is that there's something for everybody, which is really nice, and a lot of feel-good stories, and of course a lot of more difficult stories. A nice free program for children. We have a couple of programs about the recent news in Argentina, dealing with the terrorist attack, the AMIA terrorist attack. We'll have a panel discussion after that. We'll also have an evening dedicated to the murder of Ilham Halimi and the idea of what's happening with Jews in Paris right now and in Europe. And that program is called Jews and Money. Afterwards, there's a documentary about why the stereotype for so many years that Jews have money. What is that about? And we'll do a panel discussion after that as well.
Sarah, that sounds fascinating. Jews and money, all those stereotypes. Can you tell us how many film submissions there were and what your process is? And also, which countries are represented?
Yeah, of course. We had about 100 submissions. And I also kind of sifted through old festival catalogs and called different distributors and sales agents and asked them if they had films that would fit our niche, because it is indeed a tiny, tiny niche. Not just a Jewish film festival, but a Sephardic Jewish film festival. So we had a couple of people who were screening films with us, and they were kind of part of the screening committee. So I would watch films, they would watch films, and then suddenly what happened was themes started coming together as I was watching the films. And I realized that, you know, there's a program dedicated to Jews and money, for example. There's a program dedicated to films from Iraq. There's a program dedicated to films from Iran, from Greece, from Algeria, from Morocco, and I think that's, and Argentina, of course.
Okay, well, it sounds very international Sephardi. And I'm just curious, as artistic director, what was your main vision and hope for this festival, and did you make it? Did we get there?
You know, when I came to this festival, I was a blank slate. I didn't really know what to expect in terms of the films, because it's my first time programming this festival. My ideal was to have a diverse festival that is inclusive of all types of people, and a diverse festival that isn't all depressing, because a lot of the stories can be downers, and we were looking for an inclusive festival, and I feel like we succeeded. But please come look at the films and tell us what you think.
I'm here with filmmaker George Yitzhak and director-producer Menasha Khayimof, here both at the ASF opening night of the film festival. Menasha and George representing the Bukharian community. George, tell us a little bit about the film that is being screened here at the film festival.
So I'm actually showing two films. They're both short. One is about a museum in Queens. It's a museum that kind of sprung up in the attic of a yeshiva in central Queens. Curated by this really eccentric old man who gathers things from Central Asia, from Israel, and he brings them all together into this attic that's a recreation of, it's a sort of dreamlike recreation of what a Bahraini Jewish life looks like. You walk in and you enter a recreated yard. You go through, a classroom and what a house looks like, and you have all the tapestries and different artifacts you would find in homes in the 1800s in a Bahraini Jewish home in Uzbekistan or Tajikistan. It's this painstakingly crafted experience that is totally independently funded, that is a labor of love for the man I profile in the film. And the other film, it's sort of an animated recipe. We were with a Bahraini Jewish woman in Queens, and she makes a very traditional meal, and she goes through the steps of making it, and throughout the process of making it, it's a very long process, about 4 to 5 hours, she tells stories that kind of highlight the role of this dish in her life and her family's history.
Menasha, I understand that you worked on a project that was a film produced with teenagers.
Yes, it's an intergenerational project. That's what we call it, called Bukharian Lens. So basically, learning Bukharian Jewish culture through a lens. And this project has been sponsored by Genesis Philanthropy Group in JCCA's Bukharian Tea Lounge. And our teens, basically, they come up with the whole story and how they want the movie to go about. And we are interviewing World War II veterans who are Bukharian Jews to show the world and also to show Jewish community that Bukharian Jews also served in World War II, because a lot of people do not know this story, and sometimes they mix the story together with Soviet World War II veterans, where Bukharian Jewish community also had their own story, even though they were part of Soviet Union. And also the second piece of this movie is how the Ashkenazi Jews that that got evacuated to Central Asia, and how Bukharian Jewish community hosted these Ashkenazi Jews that came there, and the process of how exactly they got hosted. The more religious people took home more religious people, less religious would take home the rest religious. And through that story, our teenagers found out the story. They went back home, started asking questions of their parents. That was the essence of our project, to go back home and start asking and questioning what happened and why am I Bukharian and all of those things.
I'm here with Carole Basri, who is adjunct professor of law at Fordham Law School and executive vice president of the American Sephardi Federation. Carole, I know you from your incredible work in really bringing out the truth about what was happening in the Saddam Hussein regime. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that work?
Yes, I've made several documentaries and a law review article on the ethnic cleansing of Jews from Iraq. And today I was in fact at the UN speaking on the Women's Week and about ethnic cleansing. And I really believe that what was started by the Ba'ath and even earlier by the Muslim Brotherhood with the ethnic cleansing of Jews. First they started in Palestine with the Arab boycott, then they went on to the Hebron massacre, and then they went on to the Far'ud in Iraq. And Saddam's surrogate father, Kir Allah, who raised him, his uncle, was part of that Far'ud, the pro-Nazi uprising, where over 200 Jews died. And he raised Saddam to hate Jews, and that led, in fact, to the hangings of the Jews in 1969 in the head square. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a horrible thing that happened. He made it a national holiday, and he had 250,000 people there partying around the corpses of the Jews and made them touch the bodies of the Jews.
Carole, this sounds truly horrific and something that I don't think anyone really knows the history of, but maybe we should give our audience a little bit of a background. Can you tell our audience how many Jews there were living in Iraq at the time, and when the Jews left and how come? What were the circumstances?
Well, the Jews were in Iraq 150,000 in 1948. Now there are just 5 left. The Jews left at the time of the Babylonian exile and the destruction of the first temple. My family says it goes back to that period. And they lived in Iraq for exactly 2,600 years as a community, because 586 is the time of the destruction, and 2014 was when there were just 5 left. So it's exactly 2,600 years. I think that's amazing. The Jews in Iraq left because they were forced to leave. When Israel came into being in 1948, they started a new series, because they had an older one under the 30s, of anti-Jewish laws that took away all the property of the Jews, and it also took away their citizenship. And so any Jew who wanted to leave the country had to give up their citizenship. Then they followed the next year with expropriating the property. And at that point, at least 90,000 Jews left. 20,000 more left through Kurdistan, probably even more than that. And by 1953, there were only 10,000 Jews left. And this dwindled down to 3,000 in 1968. And as I said, now just 5.
Carole, you know, it's a little known story about the Jews from Arab countries to Muslim countries and the circumstances that the Jews had to flee these countries and the question of refugee status. So maybe you could tell our audience a little bit about that. And are you involved at all in the advocacy work for the refugee status of Jews from Muslim countries?
Yes. I'm involved with the advocacy work concerning the Jews from Arab countries. Originally, there were, according to the Arab League, 1 million Jews living in Arab countries in 1948. And as part of the Arab League plan to destroy the state of Israel, they wanted all the Jews to be forced to go back there when Israel wouldn't be able to handle it. And so Israel went from 650,000 to, when the Iraqi Jews came 4 years later, to 1,350,000. It was total saturation, but the Jews took in the other Jews. We could not get refugee status from the UN except the Egyptian Jews. They became refugees at the time of Suez, but even that didn't mean anything because they never gave anything to Jews from Arab countries, even the ones that they declared refugees, the Egyptian Jews. So they all came. Fortunately, there was a place to come to when we were ethnically cleansed. And now, out of that 1 million Jews who lived in Arab countries, there are only 4,000, maybe 300 left in the Arab world.
All right, Carole Basri, I know this is an incredibly important story, and I actually hope that you'll come to JBS, to our studios, and we can have a full-scale interview so we could talk more about the Jews from Arab countries. Carole Basri, thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you. I appreciate all the work you're doing.
I'm here with Joel Levy, who's the president of the Center for Jewish History. Joel, I understand that the Center for Jewish History has a few organizations housed here, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about them and what you guys do.
Yes, this is a wonderful organization. It's really 5 partners who are here. The American Sephardi Federation, whose event we're gathered at tonight, the American Jewish Historical Society, the Leo Beck Institute, which collects the history of German-speaking Jewry, Yeshiva University Museum, and YIVO. And they're all together in this building where we have tremendous collections that belong to the partners, 100 million volumes here, 500,000 books, countless objects, and all of us are the custodians, temporary custodians of Jewish history, all gathered here. It's a center for scholars, for the general public. Lots of people come here to learn about their history, their genealogy, who we are, where we come from. It's a wonderful place.
And that was our special event coverage of the American Sephardi Federation's 18th annual Sephardic Jewish Film Festival opening night. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Ellie Cohanim for JBS at New York's Center for Jewish History.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the JBS homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to Jem, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.